Hello and welcome back to Weekly Polls Pick of the Week. This is episode number 58. This is a podcast where we talk about pretty much new single issue comics. My name is Mike and I'm back here with Steve, and we have a special guest joining us today. His name is Jared, and I'm sure you may have met him before because he's a regular on Film Chewing, Page Chewing, and has I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel as well. So for those of you that may be joining us for the first time, Steve and I have been kind of on this journey of getting back into comics from a long hiatus. I think Jared is more of an old hand, so he's going to maybe teach us a few things here, hopefully. And we just generally pick things that pique our interest. We like to say that we don't like to pick superhero comics so much, but I think we might be pivoting a little bit this time. We usually start off with kind of a random question, but because we have so much to cover, I think we're just going to get right into it. So I'm not sure who's starting us off here. I think it might be Steve.
Yeah. So I know we have a lot to get through, so I'll try and make this fairly quick. It's the DC All-In Special, number 1. It's a one-shot. So this is the introduction to the Absolute universe, and I'm an absolute sucker for this kind of thing. I've been waiting for a new 52 style event for many years. I like it when we can start from scratch and start off on a bunch of number 1s and the excitement of getting into a new universe and all that sort of thing. So I'm a sucker for it, I admit. So this one tells 2 different stories. We have an alpha and an omega. And if you read it physically, there's a kind of a gimmick where you can read the first half and then you flip the book over and read the other way, and both stories converge and overlap. I read it digitally, so that was lost on me. But there's a lot of things I didn't know leading up to this book. There's events from Absolute Power. I had no idea what the hell was going on. So I did have to look a little bit into it to kind of get some background on it. And I know enough to kind of appreciate what they're doing. So the whole event is leading up from some things that Darkseid is doing, and this journey that he's on. It doesn't completely make sense to me why he's doing what he is doing. But either way, there's a lot of convoluted shit going on with universes and all the multiverse. From what I I won't say a whole lot, but there's a lot of multiverse shenanigans going here. But I did like the way the stories overlap. One half is the Justice League reforming. I didn't know they were never not a thing, but they were reforming to include more people. And the other half is Darkseid on his quest to merge with another character. I won't spoil it too much. So yeah, by the end we have this new universe formed, and I am over the moon excited. Want to see where we are going with this. I did like the 2 different halves. The first half is by Daniel Sampier, and the other half, the Omega side, is Wes Craig. I did like the contrasting art styles. The Wes Craig's side of it has more of a Jack Kirby, like thick lines, very dense, very muddied colors. Some of the movements the characters were making was a little wonky, but overall, I thought that they both worked together very well. The way that you don't want both halves to look too similar. So I am all in on DC All In, and I can't wait to dig into all these number 1s because I'm a complete sucker, and I'm a hook, line, and sinker going into it.
Wow. That's quite the sales pitch for that. I like it.
I'm a sucker.
I went to the store today just to pick up Absolute Batman number 1 because of all the talk about this stuff. And but I didn't. They didn't. My local store sucks, so they didn't have the DC All-In copy there. So I didn't get a chance to. I was going to pick that up too, but I didn't get a chance.
Yeah, it's worth a read, I think. Yeah.
Steve, I remain skeptical, but we'll see. I do have also the Batman. Absolute Batman. It sounds so much like the ultimate Marvel stuff.
Ultimate Batman.
But
pretty much.
Yeah. But I think the premise is different. So we'll give it a shot.
Oh yeah. Good stuff.
Now, is there a difference between, are you just going to read the Absolute stuff, or does this all in tie into the whole DC universe all in?
I think it ties in somehow. I'm not, because without giving away too much, there is the events leading up to the creation of the universe is affecting the DC proper universe.
Okay.
So I think they're going to be investigating some of the events from the All-In special. So I think it will overlap. I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm going to more focus on the Absolute. And if there are important tie-ins that I hear from someone that it is important or it is going well, then I'll dip into that. But I'm just going to grab the number ones and just bask in the joy of this new universe.
Wow.
Because the last time I was a sucker for something like this was the 52.
Mm-hmm. It's so much fun, though.
It was fun. It was fun. I read quite a bit of it when it came out. But is that still the current universe, the 52, or did it move on to something else?
No, they went back. It turned out to be, I believe, Dr. Manhattan was pulling some shenanigans on them, and they reverted back to where they started before, erasing the new 52, I think. Some of the characters, not all of them. So yeah, it was a kind of a mess, but I do like the Elseworlds twist on this new Absolute universe.
Nice.
Yeah. Andrew, I think you're up with Gru.
Oh, I'm up with Gru. All right. This is the latest Sergio Aragonese Gru. Used to be Gru the Wanderer, but now it's just Gru. He breaks these up into miniseries now, so it's Minstrel Melodies #1. And I don't know if anybody's ever followed Gru in the past. Sergio Aragonese, of course, is the famous artist from Mad Magazine. He does all the funky artwork in Mad Magazine, the cartoonish type stuff. Gru was originally a pastiche of Conan, but then it became its own thing. What's funny about this book, Minstrel Melodies, it's about the minstrel character, and there's a lot of fun rhyming songs in here. Usually Mark Avania, the writer, uses that type of thing to make some sort of social commentary, to make fun of the current state of the world. And Gru is mostly used as the means of destruction. Everywhere he goes, things fall apart. And, it's the joke of the book. Wherever Gru goes, things get destroyed. And so it's fun. This is a really fun book if you like humor. It's a humorous book. It's a lot of humor to it. It's a lot of fun to it. You don't have to know any history at all in order to get into this book. It's just it's a fun read. And Dark Horse Comics puts it out now, but it's changed publishers a lot over the years. But it's amazing that it's still going. It started way back in 1983 or 4 or something like that, and it's still going. He even one of the beauties of this book is actually the letters pages are hilarious. If you get, you remember what those are, right, guys? Letters pages.
Oh, yeah.
And they're hilarious because they're just people writing in the stupidest stuff, and he has the stupidest replies, and it's funny as hell. And he even makes somebody even wrote in saying he should do legacy numbering on Gru comics, and so he makes fun of that, and it's really hilarious. So it's a good time if you're looking for a really light-hearted, fun read.
I don't think I've ever read a Gru comic. Now that I think about it.
Really? Oh,
missing out. Yeah.
No, yeah, me either. But I've definitely heard of him, and I kind of knew it was the pastiche, as you mentioned. And I like humor sometimes. Sometimes humor fails us, at least. But
Sure.
but I'm always willing to give it a try, and I would like to. I'm gonna talk about my first comic, which Steve, I think it may have been your pick of the week last week, and
yeah,
it definitely could have been mine because this was Hello Darkness number 3. I actually thought all of the stories were really good. So not maybe one of them was okay, but the artwork was excellent, I thought, for all 4 and very different. So sometimes it's nice to see that juxtaposition of different styles. But the mukbang story, as you said, Steve, was about as gruesome as you can get, and not for the faint of heart. But
yeah,
it's a Twilight Zone type of tale, and that features cannibalism, I guess, and but does have commentary on modern technology. And then we also had, I think you mentioned, there's 3 other stories. One of them, I won't talk about the war because I think you've covered it. We've talked about it a lot, but which is the Garth Ennis ongoing series. But there's Something is Killing the Children. I found that interesting that they put it in here. I thought the story was fine, but my big question was, do I need to know that whole story? That one, and it looks like this is another one like the war, which is going to be kind of continued in the next issue or the next few issues. I mean, I think that story was fine. I just wondered if it fit here because I thought we were doing new stuff with this series, but I didn't know if you had the same thought.
Actually, I'm not familiar with Something's Killing the Children, so I didn't. I saw that after, and I didn't know that it was a tie-in.
Mm-hmm. It's a James Tynion series. I think it might have won some awards. I think it's still ongoing, if I'm not mistaken. You probably know, Jared. You're nodding. So
I've seen it in the list. Yeah, it's still going.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm impressed what they're able to do. I believe that it is possible to do good short work because, we have 1-page comics like, The Far Side or Garfield or whatever, or Heathcliff, maybe is a bad example. But I do believe it's possible. So I'm impressed because the second issue for me was not as great as the first one.
Nice. Yeah, it is that story, the mukbang story. It really, it's something.
Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah, it's something for sure. So my second one is one that's part of the Geiger Geiger universe. This is Hyde Street #1 by Geoff Johns and Ivan Reis, and also Danny Mickey on art. So nothing's quite really what it seems. In a nutshell, Hyde Street is kind of a purgatory of sorts. It's a place between morality and madness. So we follow X-Ray or Mr. X-Ray and Pranky, and they have certain responsibilities on Hyde Street for the people coming through or living on Hyde Street. And what I liked about this one is that we'd get, the setup is really solid for what Hyde Street is. We get enough information to intrigue us on Hyde Street, not enough to spoil everything. There's still surprises to come, I'm imagining. But we also get quite a bit of background on Mr. X-Ray, enough to invest in the character, and I think that's not easy to do with a couple of pages. So, I mean, Geoff Johns, what can you say about him? I think he's probably one of the best writers out in comics right now with what he can do. So, yeah, all in all, I thought it was a really good starting point, and I'll definitely be continuing.
Cool. Do you like the other books in that
I haven't read any
imprint? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mike is though.
I've been reading the Geiger series, and then I read another called, I think it's called Rook, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's another one that's come out that is Redcoat. I have not dipped into that one. be anyway. Yeah. But I wonder if they're going to be crossover. In some cases, it's maybe far-fetched to have. So far, there's not as much crossover with Geiger and the other characters, and I think the Rook series takes place in the far future. So I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Yeah, they seem. I haven't, like I said, I haven't read the other titles, but it seems very different in tone and kind of style. So I wonder how that would work. But it's comics, so I'm sure they'll find a way to cross over eventually.
Yeah. Well, I actually did see a timeline for these comics. They're in the same universe, but I don't know if they're going to cross over with each other, though.
Yeah.
I did read Red Coat for the first couple issues, but then I kind of dropped off after that.
Yeah.
So Convert
next,
2. Yeah.
I have Convert number 2 from Image Comics, and by John Arcudi, and artwork by Savannah Finley. Yeah. And this second issue, it's hard to say anything about without giving away the first issue, because the first issue ended in kind of a cliffhanger. But needless to say, our main character is going through some weird stuff in the second issue because he's on an alien planet, and he meets the aliens basically, and he gets involved with their life, their whole lifestyle, and what they're doing there, and and there's little hints of, we know where he comes from Earth from the first issue, but there's little hints of what's going to happen. He's kind of left on his own this whole issue, and he's interacting with the aliens, and that's pretty much the gist of the issue. So not really. It's a kind of a building issue, kind of a exposition issue, I guess you would say. But I like the artwork. It's very interesting. It's colorful, extremely colorful, with the alien landscape and the alien thoughts and stuff like that. And it's well drawn, very detailed. So it was a pleasant read. I liked it a lot. I think I'll continue on with this one. I want to find out more about if his original Earth astronaut crew is going to, or if Earth itself is ever going to return to this planet, basically, and how that interaction would go. So, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was a good one too. I worry that it'll be a little bit too Avatar-esque because it has a little bit of, but I'm hoping it's just influenced and not a copy. But
sure.
I like that. I'm a fan of that series too.
Yeah, so far so good. I'm looking. I'll get the next one definitely.
I've not seen that one, but I think, Steve, you might have talked about it before. So I feel like I'm missing out. Well, next up for me, I have Paranoid Gardens. I believe the author is Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance fame, if I'm not mistaken. Steve, you pointed that out. So what do I say here? This I have to just, this series is just really out there, very strange, bizarre, in a good way. Sometimes it can be maybe a little bit confusing. I did like how this third issue, because the second issue was very kind of abrupt ending, a very kind of violent ending, and you're like, okay, where are we going with this? Because everything kind of seemed like a slow build. But this, I just really appreciated how the beginning of this third issue just kind of immerses you back into this world with a very detailed depiction of this kind of community. It's like an assisted living or rehab center with patients. And I just love when that's also kind of the case with the Grommets series I've been reading, where there's kind of a nice, they just bring you back into that world. Like half a page is filled or a full page, and you can just kind of take your time. So I felt like I was settled again back into the surreal setting here, and we have Jared. If you're not following the series, you have humans and bizarre monster-looking people, plus superhero-like characters, and some of them don't remember their past. One of the main characters is named Lou, and she has amnesia. And in this issue, we learn more about her past, and all of a sudden, it may be a little bit abrupt in a way, but she does seem to have this ability to heal as a healer. So we learn that about her. And I just have to say, I really am, as I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of focusing on the artwork here. I think it's Chris Weston. He's, the kind of very detailed, but also tonally, I think is setting the stage well. I just feel like sometimes the story is a little bit all over the place, and I'm okay with that. I don't mind that. I don't need things to be. I'm okay with like absurdist, dreamlike stuff, but we'll see how it goes. I'm still continuing. So looks like I'm the only one out of us three that have.
I actually picked them up after you've been talking about. I haven't gotten to them yet.
Okay.
I'll try and catch up to you. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Did you like Umbrella Academy?
I only saw I didn't read the comic. Am I in trouble?
Yeah,
I saw the TV. Comic, yeah. I saw the TV series. Wasn't it made like, I feel like there was the one volume, and then it went to the TV series, and then they continued after that. But I didn't read the comic, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, there was 2 volumes before the show came out.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I liked the first volume a lot. And then the second volume, I just got lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was so weird, and it was so scattered.
I mean, I think I mentioned earlier that one of the characters is the home and the land where they live. Like it has feelings, and it's not clear why that is the case, but there's all kinds of stuff happening that you don't quite understand. So I'm just going with it.
Oh, okay. Nice. Is it me again?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, I got Fire and Ice #3 from Dynamite Comics. And this is written by Bill Willingham with art by Leonardo Manco. Really spectacular artwork. It's a fantasy comic. The story is, one kingdom is against another kingdom, and one's the ice kingdom and one's the fire kingdom. It's pretty basic, actually. And I have a feeling I will not be continuing on with this book because the writing, I don't understand, because Bill Willingham did some great stuff on Fables. In here, it is very basic. Some of the dialogue is actually pretty bad, and the stories, I don't know. It's so basic. It's so obvious. That's what I want to say. It's obvious, and it's just who the bad people are. The guy's brother's gonna come back from the dead or whatever. It's just so obvious and so basic, and the dialogue is poor. And I'm just like, if you want to look at beautiful artwork and just pin it up on a wall or something, then this is the book for you. But other than that, the story is just not doing it for me. And I was kind of disappointed because I like a lot of stuff that Willingham did with Fables. And this, I don't know if he's just cashing it in or whatever, but because I know this is like based on some kind of media, either a video game or something, or a movie, or
I think it was a movie. Yeah. It was like a rotoscope, maybe, or it was an animated movie, I think.
Oh, okay. And I'm not familiar with that at all, but I think this will probably be my last issue of that when I try to give it a chance. But nice to look at, though.
Yeah, I remember I picked the first book, and I felt it was the same thing. It just the beautiful artwork. I love the style and like the feel of it, but yeah, the writing would just. I'm surprised because Willingham is, Willingham, but it just felt very flat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm a big Fables fan. I love that series.
Well, that's interesting because what I'm going to talk about is there's some similarities. This is the series called Babs. And this is from Ahoy Comics, and the author is, of course, Garth Ennis, teaming up with Jason Burrows. This is a case where, like you just said, Jared, and maybe you're reading this one, but no. The dialogue is sometimes he's really going for the humor here. Sometimes the dialogue is not so great, but I thought I saw a few more bright spots in this one than I did in the first issue. And I thought one of the things, at least, that was funny is we have the arrival. This is kind of a fantasy world. Babs is kind of like a Red Sonja type of character. But we have the arrival of the Ivory Knights of Unblemished Virtue. So these are like these, as you can imagine, these, very upstanding knights or characters that just show up in this town, which is kind of where it's like a kind of a typical fantasy town, and there's an inn and that sort of thing. This is kind of more like a sword and sorcery type of style, I believe. But we learn, of course, that these knights are not so virtuous, and there is a kind of a theme of how they are discriminating against the non-humans. So it does feel like there's some themes developing here. The main character, Babs, is not doing so much, but she does meet kind of it's also funny, I felt. She meets all these kind of dead, ghost-like wraiths or warriors that are basically, skeletons, but they say funny things, and they're asking her about her hair care, and then the scary ghost character has its hair falling out. So there's some good chuckles here. The humor is rather crude. One of the things that I'm not into, and it's really pushing it here, is Babs has a talking sword. And I don't know. It's fine. I just am not loving that yet. Maybe it'll find its way. But I'll be sticking with it at least until issue 3. And hoping I'm hoping it continues and maybe finds its way a little bit more. I think just the first issue was a little rough.
Yeah, for as much as I love Ennis, he does have those issues where it just sometimes it's either a little bit too much or a little bit or not enough. So. Yeah, so I would have to look at the list. So yeah, next up for me, and I'm sure I'll hear lots of, I won't hear lots of groans, but I'm sure someone's groaning listening to this. When I talk about Spawn 357, why do I still read this book? I don't know. The only reason I can think of is for Brent Booth's art. It just gives me that nostalgic 90s feel, back when there was lots of pockets and muscles and extreme everything. So Spawn, we meet a new character who may or may not be another hybrid, we'll say, and the story moves about an inch, and it continues, and not a whole lot takes place, but other than the introduction of this new character, and everyone's still depowered. We're still going on the vampire war. The vampires are still there. They're the big boogeyman that So I did realize, looking at the numbers, because I can do basic math, that we have moved 7 issues since issue 350. And it feels like a lot longer than that. It feels like years since 350. And I think it's because of all the different Spawn titles. There's Gunslinger Spawn, there's Scorched, there's King Spawn. So it feels a lot longer when you span so many different books and it affects so many different books. So yeah, it feels like a long time. I just love the art, and I guess that's the only reason I'm still hanging on. It's the only title I'm reading from Spawn. I've dropped all the other ones. So maybe we'll move along, but man, let's get on with it. Let's do something happen, please.
I'm surprised you're sticking with it, Steve. You don't seem to be enjoying yourself.
I'm not, but the cover price isn't bad, and the paper stock is nice. The presentation is nice, so I almost feel like I should support this because it's a nice presentation and it's not crazy expensive. So I think, okay, all right, Spawn, you got me. And then I love the artwork, and then I get to the end of the book, and it's like, well, nothing really happened. So it is what it is.
Who's the artist right now?
Brett Booth.
Oh, okay, yeah, he's good.
I love his artwork. It almost reminds me a little bit of Jim Lee.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah.
A little bit of the line work and kind of the detail, kind of the scratchy shading that he does, that Jim Lee does. So yeah, maybe that's it. It does take me back to the 90s, so it's some nostalgia going on. But yeah,
357 issues of that. Wow, you got some stamina.
Oh, I haven't read all of them. Yeah, I do remember picking up Spawn #1 though. Yeah, that was fun. I have it somewhere. I just don't know where.
Nice. Okay, I got Neil Gaiman's Anansi Boys, #4 from Dark Horse Comics. This is a adaptation of the novel, adapted by Mark Bernardin and Sean Martinborough. Okay, and this is a pretty good adaptation. I get all the adaptations that I can from Dark Horse that they do of his stuff because it's pretty good. Usually well done adaptations, and this is no exception. The adaptation is very close to the actual story from the book, so it you're not going to find any wild deviance from the source material here. Unlike American Gods, the artwork in here is a bit more cartoony in nature, and it kind of fits the story a little bit more because this story is a little lighter in nature than in subject matter than American Gods was. American Gods was pretty heavy, and this is it's not a sequel to American Gods. It just takes place in the same world that American Gods was. It's its own story, and it's I don't know if you guys are familiar with the story at all, but it's about two brothers coming to grips with the fact that their father was a god, and so it's in all the psychological ramifications that can entail, so it was it's an interesting exploration of that aspect of if there were gods, what would that entail? Because a lot of gods in a lot of mythologies have offspring that were half god, a demi-human, or however you want to call them. And so it's it's like I said, it's a good exploration of that. If you don't want to read the whole book to get that, you can pick up this series and get a pretty good idea of what the book's all about.
I read the first book, which American Gods. I read that one, but I did not continue on to this book, and then so that was maybe the reason why I didn't pick this one up. But Neil Gaiman's not writing, or is not. It's just his name is on the cover. He's not.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
May not be the best choice at this moment. Put his name on the cover.
Oops. Yeah. Well, yeah. So the next one that I have is Magic. I believe the title is Magic Order 5, if I'm not mistaken. Or, excuse me, The Magic Order 5 from Dark Horse Comics. Steve, you talked about it last week. This is Mark Millar. So let me, if I remember, you were just like Mark Millar, I'm going to give it a shot. And I definitely had read some of his work, and I kind of felt the same, actually. And I'd actually picked it up, I think maybe 2 weeks ago. So if I'm not mistaken, I think it's an interesting beginning. I liked, how this kind of, this blind antagonist kind of specter appears, once, and then 8 years later, just because of, their interest in children, which is very creepy. And then we get introduced to kind of like a, I guess she's like a, almost like a private investigator, Cordelia Moonstone. She says her full name multiple times. Anyway, kind of reminded me of the Jim Butcher series a little bit, in a way. Maybe not, but she's like she has magic abilities. And then there is quite a very interesting twist ending here, which all of a sudden her life is not what she thought it was, or she's, who knows, transported somewhere else, and wakes up and, sees people that have been, as she knew, dead in her life for many years. So very interesting beginning and ending, and, maybe a few lulls here, but generally was happy with this one, and the artwork is fine. It's good. And this is Matteo Buffagni, I believe, and I'm not familiar with that artwork, but anyway, it's a not so bad beginning. I'm curious to see where it goes.
Millar is one of those authors. I don't always enjoy his work, but it's always interesting. It's never boring. Always has some kind of, always has a Millar kind of sheen on it. So even when I don't enjoy it, it's like, well, I didn't like it, but it was still worth a read. So he goes a little overboard sometimes, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So the next one for me is The Creeping Below #1. This one, I don't have a whole lot on this one. It's by Boom Studios. It's written by Brian Azzarello, and the art is by Vanessa Del Rey. The biggest takeaway I have here is that the artwork was really great. I like the kind of the feel and the tone of it, the muddied colors, the detail, the, once again, thick lines. It's about a young woman who goes to a concert, and she gets more than she bargained for. If you've seen Jennifer's Body, you may have an idea, and it's pretty close to some of the events in that movie. So I don't know if it's inspired by those events or, yeah. So there's always that thin line between getting a little too close to other things, but the dialogue, the writing was kind of not all that great, and for me, it didn't really pull me in. What really pulled me in was the artwork, and yeah, so I have no idea where it's going, but I'll give it one more issue. It just felt very kind of thin and not a whole lot of substance other than the art that I really liked. So yeah, I'll get the second one and see where it goes.
All right. Well, I got Saga number 69. Up next. Are you guys following Saga?
I read the first volume a long time ago, and I have the book 1, which is the first 4. I think it's 400 pages. I don't know how many issues, maybe 1 through 20 or something like that. I just picked it up recently.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you're in for a trip. This book is a trip. Mm-hmm. This is issue number 69. Has a nice cheeky cover that kind of has 2 people in that almost position. And and Fiona Staples' artwork is as great as always. She does have a slightly cartoonish style, but it's always detailed enough to be, close to fine art. It's really, she has some great scenes, great ideas as far as artwork goes, and a lot of funky stuff going on. This is Saga is kind of like it is actually similar to Star Wars in a ways, in with all the different races and all the different. It is, it's science fiction. It takes place in different planets, but that's about as far as you can go with that comparison, because this is definitely for adults. But this, just to get down to this particular issue, Brian K. Vaughan's a writer. He explores a lot in this current run of Saga about basically being a single parent to 2 teenage kids, and he really gets into it, and he really does a great job of giving us all the problems that come with that. And I actually appreciate that a lot, having just gone through a lot of teenage years with my own kids. But it really hits home, because it's tough being married with teenage kids, never mind being a single parent. And he really gets into it. He really gets into the subtleties of all that stuff. And his characterization is outstanding. Whether you like the wackiness of some of the races and some of the characters or not, you can't fault his characterization of those characters. And so it's really great there.
I remember reading the first volume. I think I made it through the first few issues because I heard so much about it, and it felt so similar to Star Wars that it just felt. But I'm guessing it veered off and became its own thing. But at the time, it just felt like this is really, really close. But I'll give it another shot one of these days.
Yeah, it definitely becomes its own thing. It's not. There's no surprise. They're actually twins. There's none of that stuff.
Yeah, it's creepy stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm intrigued, and that's why I picked up the book 1. I got it for a steal for like just a couple bucks. So,
nice.
But I'm a used book hunter, so I'm confessing here over on the podcast. So the next one up for me is Jeff Lemire's Minor Arcana. Mispronouncing it, but nothing new here. So this is issue number 2, I believe. Jared said you're reading this as well. I really liked issue the first one. This one, however, could have been my pick of the week. I appreciated it. The only thing was it seemed like it was over too fast. I felt like I read it quickly, and I don't know if that's because there are a few pages where there's not a lot of dialogue. So, for example, we start off here. I believe the main character is named Teresa, and she's in like a very in a dream world. The color palette is very stark, mainly like 95% black and white. And we start to question, though, is it really a dream world? So I won't go into that about what's actually going on. She, I think, as I mentioned earlier, she is definitely a flawed character, and I think her past reels its ugly head. She can't deal with what she is seeing and going through, and she kind of begins to spiral a little bit. I won't go into too many details, but I just like that work being done with the character and the development of the character. The artwork and the writing remains rather edgy, and it's at the same time, minimalist and detailed. And there is some interesting work being done with the coloring, but not the typical artwork that you would see. I'm not going to say it's abstract. I don't know if it's cartoonish, but it's I think in the last time, for lack of a better word, I said it has a little bit of like almost sloppy kind of feel, and yet it works for me. And there is a lot of symbolism in here as well. We see the Eye of Providence is featured a few times. You don't really know why. Anyway, so just to say, I'm really liking the little bit of world building we're getting, just little drips, and just enjoying the story so far. And we learned that this is going to be like a big series. It was announced in issue 1 that there's going to be like multiple volumes.
Yeah, it's a ongoing. Yeah. I like Jeff Lemire's artwork. Reminds me of Will Eisner a bit with his style. Mm-hmm. I like it. It's pretty good stuff.
It's different from everything else I'm reading. I'll say that.
Yeah. All right. Next up, I got Life #1 from Brian Azzarello and Stephanie Phillips, writers. And then artwork by Danny Gel, I can't say this name, Zezel, something like that. Zezelj. And this actually came out 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think the next one's due out next week or something like that. But this is from Distillery Comics. It's a magazine size format, and it's very interesting because it's a science fiction setting. Kind of reminded me of like the Aliens setting of the future without the actual aliens, different different world and all that stuff, but it had that dark feel of the future. But they still have all the tech to be able to do stuff in space and what have you, and they have prison worlds and stuff like that. And the interesting thing about this magazine size book was there's 2 different stories, and you read the first story, then you flip the book over and you read the next story on the other side. And one story is called Pros, the other one's called Cons, and it's, pros and cons. And I don't know if they're related yet or not. That they're just 2 different stories. They're set in the same universe, but I have no idea what their connection is or anything like that. But the first one was pretty cool. It's about a guy who gets released from prison, and in typical fashion, he meets his hot girlfriend, and then she sets him up to do some kind of heist. So, but fun stuff. If you ever read Brian Azzarello before, he has some pretty good lines. If you read 100 Bullets or what have you. And the artwork's pretty cool. It's pretty dark. It's moody, and it conveys the impression of what the story is fairly well. And it's easy to follow. Not the artwork is. And the other story on the other side of the comic is about somebody who gets sentenced to a prison, and he gets sentenced for so many years, and I don't want to give anything away, but there's a catch with that. He gets like, I don't know, 12 life sentences or something like that, but there's a catch, and it's pretty interesting how they go about it. So I'll just leave it at that. And he ends up the prison he goes to is a prison planet, and that's a whole nother funky thing that stuff happens. So,
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. I liked it. I like the size. I love this magazine size, and because the artwork gets really spread out and you can see stuff, and I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Distillery kind of reminds me of A24. They do things that I don't think most publishers would try, or they kind of give creators a little bit more freedom maybe to do oddball things like Somna and Life. And I'm reading, is it White Boat? Scott Snyder. So yeah, they do kind of off the wall things, which I really appreciate. So yeah, it's I missed that one. I missed that book.
It's good stuff.
I think the only issue is those are $9 usually, right? But I do.
Yeah, they are more pricey than your normal comic.
But
yeah, I think it's $9.98 or something like that.
If you're enjoying it though, it's worth it. And we liked Somna quite a bit, I think.
We still have to plan that.
Oops.
Yeah, $9
months later.
Yeah. So next up, I have, and Steve, you covered this. Try to be quick. Ice Cream Man number 41. And Steve, did you catch that the main character, who is kind of like a James Bond character, is Agent 41, the same number of the issue?
No, I didn't catch that.
So I'm noticing that Prince does these kinds of things. There is also an appearance of the Ice Cream Man himself that I know. And I just loved the description that was given as a subliminal Fey-influenced demigod. But there's really only a few panels on there. This story is about kind of this like a CIA character. Quite a bit of gruesome gore in this one. I think maybe we come to expect that. I forgot to mention that the artist, his last name is Morazzo. Martin Morazzo is also featured in. His artwork is from the Hello Darkness mukbang. He's the artist for that one. I don't know if you caught that, Steve, or not.
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, so he's good at that kind of thing. One thing I want to say, and won't give it away because these are kind of standalone issues, is the ending definitely went in another direction that I wasn't expecting, and then it kind of came back for another kind of like, dose of maybe reality, if you will. And so that's what I think we've come to appreciate with Prince is talking about, stretching the boundary and doing kind of his own thing. I think I'm not very disappointed with his work. And I think the only thing maybe for me is that the ending might have been a little bit jarring, too much for me to have this be my pick of the week. But I really appreciated the setting, which is in Cuba, and there's a lot of interesting commentary on Cuba and how America is could be influencing how life is there. But just still loving the series.
Very odd ending.
Yes.
Yeah. Very weird.
Totally out there.
Yeah, very out there.
Cool.
Yeah. So we're down to picks of the week. Exciting stuff.
All right.
Yeah. Pick of the week. Well, my pick of the week is Conan the Barbarian, number 15 from Titan Comics. Anybody who knows me knows this was not a surprise. I've always loved Conan comics, but I picked this for a reason. This is the third chapter in a adaptation of The Frost Giant's Daughter, which is one of my favorite Conan stories by Robert E. Howard. And what I liked about this adaptation was it did the story from the perspective of the Frost Giant's daughter rather than Conan's perspective. And I thought that was really well done. They really gave you a different look of this story from that perspective, and how Conan looks to her the whole time, rather than what he sees and what he's going through. So it just was a really cool, different adaptation, because this story has been adapted many times already. It was adapted by Roy Thomas back in the 70s, and it was adapted by Dark Horse Comics when they took over the franchise. And nothing was ever better than that original Barry Windsor Smith Frost Giant's Daughter adaptation with Roy Thomas, but this takes the cake as far as putting a new spin on it and a new perspective. And the artwork by Dougie Braithwaite was really great. I like his artwork. He did Earth X back in the day, and this was really, his style really suited the Conan style really well. And so that is my pick of the week.
I love the magazine size.
Yeah,
it's bigger size, right?
Not this one. This is the regular size of Conan the Barbarian. The magazine one is the Savage Sword of Conan.
Yeah, Savage Sword. Yeah,
gotcha.
Which I get that too, of course.
But I read the first one. I really enjoyed it, and then for whatever reason, I just didn't continue. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's great. Great stuff.
And it's on my to be read list to read through. I've read a little bit of the Conan stories, but I want to read quite a bit more. Maybe we need to check out some of those older issues you mentioned. Jared, does sound great. Who was it? Who was the publisher for you said what was it 1970s when
it was Marvel?
It was Marvel. Okay.
Yeah, back then. Yeah.
Okay.
Roy Thomas was the writer, and he was the writer for a very long time. And he did an excellent job. The best ones are the original Savage Sword of Conan comics from the 70s. Those are the absolute best.
Yeah, I've seen the old versions kind of in some of the comic stores, and I didn't pick them up, so maybe I will next time. So, for me, this is a long series for me. But I'm enjoying it, and it's had a few moments where I wasn't sure, but I would say maybe the last 5 or 6 issues I've really been enjoying myself, and this is The Deviant. This is James Tynion, and from Image Comics, and so I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure this may be the penultimate issue. And we start off with a little bit of a time jump, and Michael, our main character, who is also a comics writer, he is in some very big trouble. And what's interesting is we have not seen him for about 3 issues, and yet he's the main character. So I really appreciated that. I liked how we were digging into these other characters, and because this is a crime story, and we were seeing the little pieces being put together. There's some excellent dialogue. And it just never gets too cliche or predictable. We're really not feeling so great for Michael, even though, we hope there's maybe a good outcome for him. It's very hard to go into details here without giving much away. There's another character who's Agent Hall, who's an FBI agent. And he and Michael's boyfriend are also there's other storylines where they're coming up with different clues to the case of the kind of Santa Claus serial killer character. So a lot of tension building here. That's why I got to say this is my pick of the week. They're setting us up for what I think is the last issue. The only reason I say that is because it ends by saying "to be concluded" instead of "to be continued." So I assume This is a Christmas story, so if it ends in November, that'll be interesting. And I thought it was gonna end in December. So, but it's really I'm starting to think, I've said this before, I might be more interested in kind of crime stuff. I think I might. There's no fantasy or science fiction in here, but I'm appreciating this one quite a lot.
Kind of regret falling off of it now.
It's okay. Yeah, I think it's just I felt like there was a moment where maybe, it wasn't doing it for me. But the artwork, there's a tone here that's almost like David Fincher that I feel that, and I just recently watched Zodiac. There is a lot of similarities here.
Oh, okay.
Damn it. Nice. Yeah, so to finish up, my pick this week is Skin Police #1. This is by Oni Press, written by Jordan Thomas and art by Daniel Getty, I believe. He drew Uber, so that's why I was familiar with him, the Avatar Press series. So basically the setup for this one is after a fertility pandemic hits the planet, people start creating clones of people, to infant clones, to make up for the difference. And it becomes a black market thing where they sell babies that are clones. And a lot of the time people don't realize that they're clones, but they do when something snaps and they go on a murderous rampage. They just snap and they go insane. So the government, of course, steps in and develops the department to exterminate or capture, quote unquote, these clones before they have a chance to lose their marbles and kill lots of people. So the whole setup I just love. I love the whole setup of the creating clones to fill in the gaps. And I love when science oversteps its boundaries and does, they try to play creator and things don't go very well. It's a kind of a dystopian. I don't know if it's dystopian so much as you do feel the oppressive nature of the government and the governments, really, who are policing these clones, and the hopelessness you must feel to wonder if you are a clone, and to be always, because you don't know that you're a clone. So if you're always on edge thinking, are they coming to get me? Because you don't know if you're a clone or not, but they are seeking people out and, like I said, taking care of them. So yeah, it's everyone's on edge because no one knows, am I a clone? Am I not a clone? Am I really going crazy? Am I hallucinating? Am I imagining this? So yeah, I really love the setup. I really love the artwork, and I just love this futuristic setting. The main character isn't all that it wasn't all that intriguing for me. It's more of the story and the setup that really captured my attention. So yeah, my pick is Skin Police #1. Excited to see where it goes. And with that, Jared, I hope we didn't scare you away.
Hardly. Take a lot more than that to scare me away.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, it was fun to have you on. And Mike, glad you're back.
Yeah, it's great to be back. And boy, we had quite a few to discuss today. I would say we were overall pretty happy with. I was happy with almost everything I read, which is kind of rare for me. Maybe we had a few duds. Well, Jared, I think you're moving away from at least one, but I'm impressed because I feel like I had a few weeks where I was just like, sometimes not feeling it, and you become less hopeful for your investments because some of these are long-term investments. You go into, issue number 3 or 4 and you're like, do I continue or not? I had a good week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah, so thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. I know it's tough for you in the evenings to jump on, but appreciate you taking the time. Welcome back anytime you want to.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. So in the meantime, Jared, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel. And you can find me on pagechewing.com on plenty of podcasts like this one, and including speculative speculations as well.
Yes, indeed. And so if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can also, there's a link in the description that says send us a message. You can send us a message and tell us how wrong we are about whatever book we did or didn't like. Be sure to let us know your thoughts, or you can visit us on pagechewing.com, view the blog, which Jared writes on. And also you can join our forums and talk to us directly, join our little group of friends. We have a tightly knit group that we don't always get along, but, we always just have fun anyway, chatting. So come and visit us there if you would like to join us or have any suggestions or tell us about what you're reading. So we will talk to everyone very soon.